What is up, everybody? Calling all angels. It is good to see everyone as we somewhat delayed get this out here. We are talking the return of NWSL. We are back to action. It is time to talk about the return week that we just had. I was in a pretty good mood after all this because obviously Angel City coming out with a win. We are going to talk all 8 though. I'll go into a little more detail on Angel City in their own video, which will go up on its own on Saturday. But for now, we do have ourselves to get started with. So let's... What am I looking at here? Oh, that ain't it. Let's turn that off. Alright, I think we got this now. There we go. Awesome. Okay, so I have to get a little small for this one, unfortunately. Been a minute. Also, ESPN and me have a bit of beef right now. Usually, their stuff is a lot easier to navigate, but they updated over the break time to make it so that assists were a lot harder to find. So because of that, I had to adjust switching back and forth between a couple of different sites, which was irritating. Yeah, that's going to need to be fixed in the future. For now, though, let's talk about first the return match for NWSL, and that was the Washington Spirit picking up a victory over the Houston Dash, as generally expected. So, to start, Trinity Rodman was responsible for both goals here. The first, after what had been a pretty solid effort, the Spirit should have really been leading early on. Kawasi's failed PK at the 35th minute. I didn't feel like it was actually going to haunt them too much because I figured they were in a good enough position where just watching a little bit of it where they were probably getting a couple goals out of it, and they ended up getting it. Rodman scoring very early on in the second half, that 50th minute goal, and she did end up having to step up and score again near the end because Houston leveled the game in the 89th minute, but Rodman was able to get one during injury time. It actually ended up being a lot tighter than I thought it would. I did not think Houston was going to force matters to become that tight, but yeah, this got pretty crazy. A lot of yellow cards, as you can see from here. Majority came from Houston, but pretty game fight from the Dash. I was not expecting them to push as hard as they did. Good effort on the part of the Dash, but they ultimately were limited, and they were playing a team that's going to be contending near the top. So I think that pretty much tracks. Similarly, I don't know why there's not that many space there. There it is. Kansas City the current Shield holders, seem to be trying to get themselves back into contention. This was utter domination against Denver. So the current have the lead from now where the failed PK happened in the 35th minute that would have given Washington the lead. Kansas City gets a failed PK in the 37th minute, but by then they've already scored thanks to the Michelle Cooper. And that turned out to be quite a successful combo there. Croy Bethune giving an assist on both goals. We see some excellent action there. And then Tenma Chawinga gets her goal in the 87th minute to continue the push for the Golden Boot. Izzy Rodriguez providing the assist on that one. But she is going to be challenged there. But this was a chance for that goal to move her closer to Barbara Banda, who was not playing against Angel City later on that day. So, worked out well. Kansas City's looking like a contender again. Denver looked very much like an expansion team in this game. We'll see if they can get back to the form they were in, or if that was an early season mirage. I'll talk very quickly about Angel City's win with Orlando. The strikers looked like they were back on form. Jan's daughter scoring, Mayara scoring, two very good goals on that part. Marta stepped up to try to make some stuff happen, but the yellow card in the 70th minute was really all she had to show for it. In terms of shots, Orlando just couldn't generate any. They got one shot at the goal, even though they were controlling the possession, and that kind of shows the limitation here. As of right now, they only have one sturdy finisher, and that's Banda. And if she's not there, this team is very, very limited. They are clinging to that 8 spot right now. Angel City currently sitting a single point behind them, but that could, between Angel City and a couple of teams right behind them, they could find themselves down as far as, I think, 11th place if they drop this week's game. So definitely a bad spot for Orlando to be in. Angel City actually looked like they were on form again, but they were playing an Orlando team missing their star striker. This week's match with San Diego is going to be a lot more telling. All right. North Carolina Courage, Seattle Reign. Interestingly, Seattle did pick up this dub. So I was impressed to see, like, looking at the stat line here, this was not a game I saw, but to see Menti get the lead there. Seattle at one point looked like they might have been okay, and then that was very, very misplaced on my part. Ashley Sanchez also making a run for the Golden Boot, racks up 2 goals herself here, 22nd minute, 71st minute, so about 50 minutes apart. And in between those 2 goals, Riley Jackson got a penalty kick to go up 3-1 here. And, yeah, North Carolina very much looking solid there, putting the Reign down. Now, that said, Seattle Reign have been very spotty. So, are the Courage actually as good as they looked, where they're starting to look like an upper-level team again? Or are they going to fall back to earth here as they start playing more difficult opponents? Time will tell. San Diego Wave getting a 2-0 win over Gotham FC in a battle of 2 of the teams considered in the elite category right now. It was pretty much a bare first half and would have gone scoreless to halftime, but Melanie Barcenas gets a goal off of Kennedy Wesley's assist, and from there Gotham's playing defense, having to play in response to San Diego. Doesn't really work out in their favor. It's a half of very much nothing. And when they're and once again, San Diego getting goals after the point where it's no longer really necessary. Trinity Byers gets a goal off of Leah Godfrey's assist. 3 minutes into injury time after they're already well ahead and the game appears in hand. So San Diego has definitely become kind of a master of putting like bullet point goals at the end of their matches when it looks like it's already over. So San Diego still holds that top position. Gotham, with the top 6 being the way it is right now, any loss between the teams at the top can really be detrimental to the standings. Right now, we're talking about, if you looked at the games in hand for the teams, potentially every single team would be 1 point away from San Diego, except for Washington. They could actually move 2 points ahead. So basically everyone's within about 3 points of each other, including games in hand, which means everyone's pretty much in control of their own destinies here. With about half the season, a little over half the season to go, it is very much a who's going to show up and who's going to play hard when they match big opponents. And there's going to be big opponents coming up most weeks. So that's something that needs to be taken into account for all of them. And look in here. This match was crazy. I watched this match. This was bonkers. So Casey Murphy gets a yellow card early on, and Claire Hutton's able to take advantage off of an ensuing penalty kick, puts Bay FC up 1. Later on, Kari Lemma gets a goal off of Hutton's assist, and now Bay's up 2-0, less than 20 minutes into the match, and all Boston has to show for is 2 yellow cards. To their credit, they have developed an ironclad will, though, because right before halftime, when you look like you're going to be going down by 2, Amanda Gutierrez steps up, puts in a goal, now up by only 1. The pressure is on, and this led to a very eventful press by Boston, eventually leading to them getting a penalty kick 79 minutes in. Traore takes the kick, levels the game. Both teams end up with yellow cards trying to challenge and get the game-winning goal. They're both forced to settle for 1. So battle of the bottom corner in the league gets a draw, and it was a lot of fun. I'm much impressed. It was a very good time. Also, great. These games were very different on Sunday. Chicago drawing first blood against Utah in the 20th minute with Jordan Haitema changed the entire layout of the match, forced Utah to act a little more in response. Now, they were able to get a goal, an unassisted goal, like a classic goal, that put it 1-1 going into the half. But that basically, Utah, I don't think, was expecting to not be winning at halftime. And so we had a very strange set there in the second half. Utah gets a PK that Kaiser kicks in. And Sam Staub, a couple minutes later, records a goal to tie the match. So we have an equalizer there. And again, there's just no spacing. 15 minutes into the match is still even. Utah is still playing a little tense. Anna Tejada gets a yellow card in the 75th. And you just see this pressure mounting, and it finally comes to a head with Haitema getting a goal in the 86th minute to put Chicago up. And this is an upset that I was not expecting. This is one that is very bad for Utah in their press to try to stay at the top, because losing to Chicago is not something you can do when you're trying to contend for a shield. And everyone is as tight as I had mentioned. So this is going to be one that Utah's going to circle as points they wanted back, I think. And that leads us to one last one. I'm just going to belt through this one. Louisville's in bad shape right now. Portland just basically ran through them. We had Jaden Perry scoring quickly. Pietra Torton got the assist, and then subsequently got a goal of her own in the 36th off of an Olivia Moultrie assist. Yeah, and then Rylan Turner scores off of Sophia Wilson assist, and then Wilson gets her own with a Pietra Torton assist. Now you're hearing a lot of the same names over and over and over again. It's clear Portland has their attacker set, and it doesn't really shift. But for now, all those attackers are proving sufficient. If they all go into a slump, Portland could find themselves in a very bad time. But right now, having that many people there, whether it comes to Rylan Turner, Sophia Wilson, Pietra Torton, Jaden Perry, that's a good set of 4. It makes you difficult to deal with. It makes that more reactive style they have still functional, because you have so many people who can turn things around for you. Again, it's very much going to hinge on how hot that 4 crew can stay, but for the time being, it is effective. And that's basically the week here. This video is going up very early. Later on today, you'll see the match previews, which I'm about to record. And then the Angel City recap and preview will come in on Saturday morning. So look forward to all those. I am going to shoot for a live. I do believe it's going to probably be the Sunday morning game, simply because I've got a game I'm going to live. And I can't guarantee I'll be back in time to see the Angel City kick off. And I don't want to start a stream midway. That said, if the game's tight at halftime, you may see me just pop on here. Just be ready for anything, but I will likely not live that one, even though I very much want to. With that said, I will talk to you all soon, and go Angels. All right, everyone, we got our previews now. Got some matches coming up this week. 8 really solid ones. A lot of showdowns with really the big teams going at it. So a lot of shifts to the standings could be happening here fairly quickly. So what I want to talk about as we go through this whole situation is let's start with just from a standing standpoint, where are we? All right. So as it stands right now, we have got a top 7 who is currently able, if their games in hand were to go their way. By the way, when I talk about games in hand, I go by whoever is the leader in the standings. Right now, that would be San Diego. What is their match number played? So right now, they're sitting at 14 played. That would mean teams that have played 13 have 1 match in hand. Teams at 12 have 2 matches in hand. And so if you look at the current table of the NWSL, what's going on is every team right now with a match in hand could get to 27 points and be a single point out of first place. Any team with 2 matches in hand, again, we're talking about the top 7 right now, could win their matches, get to 27 points. Lone exception of this actually being Washington, who has 2 matches in hand and could get to 30 and could take over as the leader. They're the only team right now who could do it just off of matches in hand. And so what we're looking at this point is a standings where 1st through 7th are separated by only 3 points. So now, with all of that said, let's look to all these teams. We've got San Diego. We got Portland currently sitting at the top 2 spots, 14 matches played. San Diego at 26, Portland at 27. Washington, Utah, and Kansas City are all at 24 each. Washington sits at 3rd because they've only played 12 matches, where Utah and Kansas City have played 13. And then you have North Carolina and Gotham, who started a little bit lower early on, but are still at 21 points through 12 matches. So anytime those 7 are going at it, you're potentially talking about a major shift in the standings every time teams like them play. And we've got a couple of those this week. Not all the way again. So let's talk about them. Anything going to be right here? All right, so today, when you start seeing these coming up, we have 4 matches on Friday. One of the busier Fridays we've had in a while. And so Orlando and Kansas City, technically it's the 8th place team in Orlando, so they are the next highest ranked team outside of the top 7. But they have been on a skid. They just got shut out by Angel City, who's sitting right behind them at 9th. And so the conventional wisdom for me is that Kansas City is going to win this match. They've played very hot. Orlando has kind of proven they're a little bit reliant on one striker. And so as I'm looking at this, I view this in the sense that Kansas City is going to take this win, which will open the door for a couple of teams here. Specifically, the next ones in line would be Angel City, Denver, Seattle, Houston. All of them are currently within 3 points of Orlando, so a defeat from Orlando kind of sets everyone up for some big success. And I'm going to say it's probably definitive. I do think Orlando does score this time, but I think Kansas City gets them 3-1. Next up, we have another bottom 4 matchup, Boston and Chicago, coming out of Foxborough. As far as I know, I think this game actually is in Foxborough. I don't think there are any more matches taking place there, so I think they're in the clear. But, yeah, right now, I would say Legacy have the upper hand being at home, but both came off very big, successful weeks last week. Chicago pulling off a big upset in their own right, taking down Utah. Boston making a big comeback after being down 0-2 to salvage a point against Bay. I'm going to say they can pull it again. I'm going to say 2-1. They beat Chicago at home, which will solidify them a little bit more in the table as they try to get themselves out of the bottom corner. Meanwhile, Bay has all four of the bottom four are going against each other here. So Bay travels to Racing Louisville, who is they're in a state right now. This has been a rough time for them. I would normally favor the home team here, especially since Bay took a bit of a lengthy trip last week, and now they're still not all the way back home. But with Louisville, just there's gonna need to be like a full-on overhaul in short order with them. I have not been impressed with what I've seen there. There's some structural issues on that team, in the franchise, that whole in the front office. So I'm gonna say Bay does pull this out. They struggle. I'll give them a 2-1 win. And then last match, we have two heavy hitters. We got Gotham at Utah. After what happened in last week's match, Utah Royals absolutely cannot afford to drop another one, especially here where a Gotham victory would put them back up ahead of them. So my guess is this is a Utah redemption. I'm going to say they take a 1-0 victory. It's going to be just a difficult match all around. It's going to be very dicey. But I'm going to give it to them. I think Utah gets themselves back on track, kind of holds Gotham down in that lower tier of opponents, where they're sitting more in that 7 range, where the teams that are surging might be able to get back into this mix. So we'll see if that ends up being true. Another clash of the upper 7 happens at the start of Saturday. That would be North Carolina and Washington. This is a match I'm very disappointed I won't be able to see, but I'll be at a matchup live that day. But North Carolina finally starting to look like a real powerhouse, like I thought they were going to. But they have had trouble being consistent, and that is not going to work for you when you're playing a team like Washington, who has been on fire lately. And I think that's going to come back as well here. Once again, I'm not going to give it straight up to Washington here, because I do think the best scorer right now is Ashley Sanchez. She has been on a bit of a tear. So what I will say is this one's going to go to a 2-2 draw. That'll be welcome news to a lot of teams in that upper 7, because that means 2 of your contenders are only walking away with a single point. So as this battle for the Shield comes into play, I think that's something that's also going to be notable. Which ones can hold to draws? And then the end of Saturday, I don't think I'll be back in time to actually live it, but if it's really competitive, maybe I'll slip in for the second half. We got San Diego Wave and Angel City going again. Very big matchup. Last time they played, Angel City had them outplayed for a while, but the second half really went San Diego's way. They came up with some goals they needed and got the win. Now this time it's going to be at Snapdragon. Much more hostile venue for the rival Angel City, but San Diego has never cleanly swept Angel City out of a season. Usually they hold their own at least once, and I think this is going to be the one. I'm going to say this match goes also to a 2-2 draw. I don't think Angel City is in a position where they can beat San Diego, but I believe they do get emotionally up to play this match just as much as San Diego does, and I think we'll see an even draw at this time around. Saturday is going to be very much deadlocked, I think. And again, that'll be welcome news for a lot of these contenders to see San Diego only get themselves up to 29 points here. One team in particular that's going to be very welcome for is Portland, who is going to face their Cascadia rival Seattle Reign on Sunday. Now, this matchup, Very difficult one to call here, but I do believe that it favors Portland, who at this point will be looking at the match like we can be back in first here. We can get to 30. If the first team in the league to 30, we've got a competitive edge here. Seattle is looking off. Now, I don't think they're going to be able to dominate Seattle the way that they want to. I think Seattle gives them a very tough match. But I do believe Portland comes away with a 1-0 victory, and that will put the Thorns into the top position on the table before this weekend is over. And then lastly, we've got two teams that are just chomping at the bit for someone to fall off here. Denver and Houston. This game being held at Mile High. Definitely, Dash have proven more capable than I thought they would. But I do think there is a gap in skill here. I think Denver is the better team. I'm going to give them a 2-1 victory. And assuming that ends up being the case, that would put Denver up to 18 points. They would have a positive goal differential. That would allow them to jump both Angel City and Orlando. So, at least for this week, I would position Denver as the 8th team in the playoffs. Now, with that said, that would be far from a permanent condition. Already, from what we've just mentioned, Gotham would still be pinned down at 21 points. Denver would be 3 points back at 18. You'd be looking at Orlando and Angel City at 17 each. So, getting very tight. Oh, and North Carolina at 22 with their draw. So, what you'd be looking at potentially is about a 5-point separation between 6th place in the league, actually, and the second team out. So, that's kind of where we're sitting right now in terms of the league. I think we've got a really tight race, but as they start to play each other more and more, you're going to see some of them fall out of that category and move into a fight where they're trying to retain against the teams challenging. Because they're going to start matching up with the lower tier opponents as well. They're going to rack up points. So there's a lot of room for movement here as we get closer and closer to the halfway point of the season. I believe next week it should be the actual halfway point. Like, I'm not going to say this week is, because still like half the league won't be at 15 matches, but nearly everyone will be, and a few will be past it by next week. So yeah, we're gonna be talking second half struggles here in the coming weeks. But for now, that's our previews. Enjoy the matches that you get to watch. Hopefully I'll be in good mood here fairly soon. Go Angels!